Welcome to my studio. Continue to ponder some things that James writes in his short little letter to the churches or to the believers that are scattered. And he says some pretty powerful things about the things that we say. He had a significant teaching on that in James chapter 3 about guarding our tongue and that sort of thing. And now I want to look at just one verse where he says more about the things that we say. And so this is just James chapter 5 and verse 12. Notice how he starts this verse. He says, above all, my brothers and sisters. I'm just going to pause there for a sec. Above all. It's like you can almost hear a teacher giving a lecture saying, if you don't hear anything else I say, please take note of this. But he says it with a note of tenderness. Above all, brothers and sisters. And he's been writing tenderly about all these major things he's saying. But above all, my brothers and sisters, do not swear, not by heaven or by earth or by anything else. All you need to say is simple yes or no, otherwise you'll be condemned. Do not swear. Now, when I was growing up, I would hear about do not swear, and the idea was don't use curse words, no cussing, no vulgarity, that kind of thing. And that's a good thing to be teaching our children. In fact, I am quite concerned about the amount of vulgarity and obscene language that I hear in our culture today. And it's even in the media and places where it ought not to be, in my opinion. And that's a real concern. But that's not what James is talking about here. He's talking about being a person who feels that in order to be believable, we need to use some kind of an oath or say, I swear by whatever a person wants to. For example, I knew a fellow that when he would say something emphatically, he'd say, if I'm lying, I'm dying. Well, why would he need to say that? And I think what James is really saying here is be the kind of person who does not need to use some kind of emphatic statement to say that you are telling the truth. Be a trustworthy person. You would think James, being that earthly half-brother of Jesus, must have heard Jesus teach a lot, because he says so much in the letter, in this book of James, that reflect what Jesus had taught. And this is another one of those places. It's just a single verse, but it seems to reflect what Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount back in Matthew chapter 5 when Jesus says this. Again, you have heard it was said to the people long ago, do not break your oath, but fulfill to the Lord the vows you have made. But I tell you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is his footstool. And he goes on to say, not to swear by anything. And he says, all you need to say is simply yes or no. Anything beyond this comes from the evil one. Simply let your yes be yes, your no be no. And so that's what James is saying. All you need to say is simple yes or no. Otherwise you'll be condemned. But now I find it interesting because sometimes people have a hard time saying no or yes for that matter. But I think, for example, I might invite someone to come to a special event and say, I'd love to have you come. Can you make it? And in my case, often it's something at church. And they'll say, I'll have to check my schedule to see if it will work out. And then something like, tell me again, what time does it start? And they may not have any intention about coming. They're just simply not wanting to say, no, I'm not, I prefer not to come, or whatever it might be. Instead, it's kind of a way of clouding that. And that's somewhat frustrating because Jesus is saying, and James is saying, we can be the kind of people that can trust in God, and so we can be truthful in what we say. And we can be a person of our word. And I think about times when maybe I have fallen short in those areas as well. And these trouble me a little bit. I think back of when maybe I had told somebody I would go to something and didn't follow through. And what that does is it establishes hurt feelings, a negative reputation, and those kinds of things. And I've had to confess some of that to God and say, I wish I could do that over again. And I want to be the kind of person that can simply be truthful. And I trust that would be your case as well. But you'd want to be the kind of person who, when you say yes, that's exactly what you mean. And when you say no, that's what you mean. And if you truly say, well, I really don't know, that's okay too. But be a person of your word. And we don't need to take major statements to try and be emphatic or anything, just being truly honest. And so James says, this is significant, it's important, above all. Be a person who does not need to swear. Just say a simple yes or no. And people know that you're going to follow through on what you say. And may God help us to be this kind of a person as we continue to grow, learning to be more like Jesus. May God bless you today.